Welcome back, everybody. My name is Tucker, and today I'm continuing my team preview series with the Utah Jazz. I took a few weeks away from this, but now I'm back and I'm ready to cover a few more teams before the start of the regular season in October. With there only being a few more weeks left until then, please be sure to let me know which teams you would like for me to cover that I haven't already. I flip back and forth each week between the Western and Eastern Conference, so next week's team will be from the East. So give me a few suggestions down below, and the highest rated comments will be put into a poll on the community page. Let's get right to it. Even though most people remember how the Jazz's season ended up, I think a lot of fans have forgotten how crazy their season was a year ago. They didn't have a great start as the centerpiece of their defense, Rudy Gobert, missed a ton of time early in the year, and the team's record suffered as a result. In fact, they were 8 or 9 games under 500 all the way through the end of January, but then Gobert returned and they were one of the best teams in the league by record over the last stretch of the season, and ended up with 48 wins and the 5th spot in the Western Conference. They won their first round series against the Thunder in impressive fashion, but their season ultimately ended at the hands of the Houston Rockets in a series that, although they did show themselves pretty well, also showed that their defense might not be as well equipped as it needs to be to keep up with the more spacing-oriented offenses of the Warriors and Rockets. I can't show you any clips here because copyright is a thing, but there are definitely times in that series in which Gobert seemed more like a defensive liability trying to stick with guys on the perimeter rather than the anchor around the rim that he's been for the past few seasons. Now, the Jazz have built their defensive identity largely around Gobert's excellent skills as a rim protector, and that shouldn't change after just one playoff series, but it could be an indication of their ceiling, both within the regular season conference standings as well as postseason success, if their usually great defense falters against the top offenses in the West. Offensively, we all know how great of a year Donovan Mitchell had as a rookie, and the expectations for him are sky high going into the upcoming season. His shot creation and playmaking abilities were huge for Utah throughout the regular year and in the playoffs, but an increase in efficiency from the floor and the three-point line would be a great step towards becoming one of the true stars of the league. As a team, the Jazz were in the middle of the league both in terms of offensive rating and points per game, and slightly above average from beyond the arc. I wouldn't expect a huge change in the points per game number this year, as they play at one of the slowest paces in the league, so getting into high-scoring games just isn't really their scheme. But if they're serious about being a top 3 or 4 seed this coming season, increasing their three-point ranking up into the top 10 would be all but a necessity. It is obviously important to consider how injuries to various players affected those stats over the course of the entire season, but that's the case with every team, so there isn't much of a need to go in depth on that here. Moving on now, let's take a look at what the Jazz did in the offseason. To keep it simple, they basically just decided to run it back with the same group plus their new first-round pick. They re-signed guard Dante Exum to a 3-year, $33 million deal, which some people saw as too pricey considering his production so far in his career and the general lack of cap space around the league. But retaining Exum keeps one of the best chances they have of significant internal improvement from the team a year ago on the roster. He did only play in 14 games in the regular season last year, but if you're looking for a silver lining as a Jazz fan, he did put up improved numbers in that admittedly small sample size. He did come back down to earth a bit in the 10 games he played in the postseason, but as I said earlier, he probably has the best chance of any player on the roster of being a true difference maker in comparison to their 2017-18 contributions. And I would imagine that the Jazz will need those improvements to reach the lofty goals that most seem to have set for them. If Exum continues to become more and more comfortable on the offensive side of the ball and improve his three-point accuracy to a league average level, that combined with his strong defensive versatility would give the team a huge boost off the bench or even in a starting role in some situations. That's obviously a big assumption for a guy that has very modest career stats and a troubling injury history, but that doesn't mean that this coming season can't be the one in which he truly breaks out. Next, the team brought back forward Derek Favors on a 2-year, $36 million contract. A few months ago, I made a General Manager Monday video on the Jazz in which I basically ruled out the possibility of Favors returning to the team, and as it turns out, I was dead wrong. I assumed that because of the awkward fit between him and Rudy Gobert in the frontcourt, as neither really spaced the floor, it would be in both parties' best interest for Favors to find a new team for this coming season. But a deal worth $18 million a year can be very convincing for a free agent of Favors' caliber, no matter how short the contract, and bringing him back does at least mean the team won't have to scramble to find answers at the starting 4 spot. Even though he isn't a great fit as a modern 4, he had a solid statistical season a year ago, and even though if you squint a bit, you could kind of see some improvement from 3-point range, that isn't going to be a high volume category for him anytime soon, it doesn't seem like. Having said that, it does seem like Quinn Snyder has figured out a way to split the minutes between Favors and Gobert at the 5 spot so that they can put out lineups that provide better spacing at the 4 while still having both big men start together to begin the game. For me personally, that's a lot of money to spend on a guy that's playing out of position, but I understand the team not wanting to lose his contributions from a year ago. Last up is the only notable addition of the offseason to the Jazz, and that is first-round pick Grayson Allen. It obviously would have been nice for the team to find some other kind of help than a late first-round pick, but given the amount of money they shelled out in re-signing their own players, it isn't surprising. I wouldn't expect a ton from Allen as a rookie if I was a Jazz fan, with the exception of solid outside shooting and occasional playmaking and ball screens. He'll likely struggle defensively to stay in front of good perimeter players, and will probably have to be hidden on off-ball shooters most of the time. He did spend 4 years in college, so he should be one of the more NBA-ready rookies around the league, and if he was a solid contributor at times offensively, that really wouldn't surprise me. But his lack of a two-way impact will more than likely cause him to be near the end of the Utah rotation, if he's in it at all, given how heated the Western Conference playoff race will be and the team's expectations for this coming season. Now we move on to just taking a look at how the Utah Jazz will fare this season as a whole. It seems to me that the general expectation of the majority of fans is that the Jazz are a top 3 to 5 seed in the West, but won't make it to the conference finals as a result of being unable to defeat either the Rockets or Warriors. The reasoning here is that Utah posted 48 wins and a 5th place finish a year ago, even with Gobert missing so much time and Mitchell still growing into his role as a rookie. So with a healthy Gobert and a more seasoned Mitchell, they should improve upon those marks. While I understand that, I'm a bit less optimistic about the Jazz compared to most other people. The West was already extremely tough and got even tougher with LeBron coming to LA, which will make it even more difficult to sustain their 48 win total from a year ago. And there are a number of teams that could finish ahead of the Jazz in the West next year. The obvious choices are the Warriors and Rockets, but I also see the Lakers, Thunder, and maybe even the Spurs ahead of the Jazz, putting them more in the 5 to 6 seed range for me. This is also under the line of thinking that Gobert has missed 20 plus games in 2 of the last 3 seasons, so to just assume that he will be fully healthy for the entire season and that alone will jump them up the standings doesn't make much sense to me. That isn't to say that it's impossible for the Jazz to finish 3rd or 4th in the West, just that I don't see it to be as likely as most other people. They're still a very good team, and they will be one of the best defensive teams in the league, assuming Gobert plays most of the season. And the playmaking trio of Rubio and Ingles and Mitchell should be an exciting group to watch once again, but there are simply other teams that I like better. The Jazz are very well coached, but they simply don't have as much top-end talent as some other teams in the West, and should one of their key pieces suffer either due to injury or poor play, it could have a huge negative effect. If they improve their 3-point shooting and attempts numbers to be inside the top 10 in the league, then that would be a great step towards proving me completely wrong. And it also can't be ruled out that Exum is a much stronger contributor this coming season as well. I know as I'm making this video that I will likely get a ton of criticism for this take, that the Jazz aren't a top 4 team in the West, as I did when I made the Vegas predictions video. But that isn't going to stop me from giving my honest and well-researched opinion, just as I always do. In the end, this is just my opinion, and I would love to hear what you guys think in the comment section. Where do you think the Jazz will finish in the West this coming season, and why? Are they a threat to the top of the conference? Or maybe you'll think they'll fall out of the playoff picture completely because, well, somebody has to, assuming the Lakers make it in LeBron's first season in LA. Utah is one of the most interesting teams to try and predict this season, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys have to say. With all that said, that is the end of today's video, and I thank you all very much for watching. Coming up next on Friday is another NBA Jeopardy episode, so be on the lookout for that. Once again, my name is Tucker. If you missed any of my previous Monday, Wednesday, Friday videos, then be sure to check out the boxes on screen. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.